Initiating Characterpedia sequence. Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, also commonly referred to as Sasquatch in Canadian and American folklore, is an ape-like creature that is said to inhabit the forests of North America.
Origins and history.
Although stories and sightings of large ape-like creatures had been reported before, the term Bigfoot was not coined until 1958. This was when Jerry Crew, a logging company bulldozer operator in California, discovered a large set of 16-inch human-like footprints sunk deep within the mud in the Six Rivers National Forest. Aside from leaving massive footprints, the creatures supposedly moved logging equipment around, and the workers soon began using the term Bigfoot to describe the possible culprit. Reporter Andrew Genzoli of the Humboldt Times newspaper interviewed a number of the paranoid lumber workers and wrote articles about the strange footprints, coining the term Bigfoot in reference to the so-called large hairy wild men who left the tracks. Major media outlets would also use the term, and the name Bigfoot became widespread when referring to the large unknown creature that may have been leaving massive footprints in Northern California. Other names, depending on region and geographic location, have also been used to describe the creature, or at least similar creatures, such as skunk ape in Florida and Sasquatch in Canada.
Physical appearance.
Most commonly described or depicted as being large, muscular bipedal ape-like creatures that are covered in black, dark brown, or dark reddish hair that can be 1 to 4 inches in length. These beasts are said to stand anywhere from 6 to 9 feet in height, with average estimates being between 7'4" to 7'10" tall. The creatures are said to weigh around 500 to 800 pounds, however males who exceed 9 feet in height can weigh up to more than half a ton. Other less common claims have suggested that the most massive individuals can stand up to 10 to 15 feet in height. Much like a gorilla, these creatures are said to possess domed heads with a heavy brow ridge, a flat face, protruding jaw, no visible neck, broad shoulders, and long arms. In contrast to primates, they are said to have long straight legs like a human's and a human-like face with a flat nose and visible lips. Their teeth are also said to appear more human, with reduced canines. The eyes are commonly described as dark in colour and have been alleged to glow yellow or red at night, which is unusual as primates lack the ocular membrane that nocturnal animals have to assist with night vision. Their foot morphology suggests longer, wider and flatter feet that have no visible arches and possess proportionately longer toes than that of humans. The enormous footprints, for which the creature received its moniker, are claimed to be as large as 24 inches long and 8 inches wide, indicating individuals that stand over 10 feet tall. Average tracks are said to be closer to 15.6 inches in length and 7.2 inches in width. Finally, some footprint casts have also contained claw marks.
Intelligence.
The level of intelligence Bigfoot possesses is unclear, as encounters have been normally brief. However, numerous witnesses have explained that their eyes conveyed intelligence like a human's. Alternatively, others have reported that they stared blankly like a wild animal.
Behavior.
It is entirely possible that Bigfoot are highly social creatures, forming close groups that consist of a dominant alpha, a harem of females, and their juveniles. Other accounts have suggested that they are largely nomadic and solitary creatures, adopting more nocturnal activities. As a result, Sasquatch have developed certain avoidance behaviour to limit interactions with humans. When encountered, these creatures will move away swiftly and prefer not to have any contact with people. However, like with any large animal, an aggressive response may be elicited if the creature feels threatened in any way. These beasts have been said to throw large stones or rocks with impressive velocity at people and cars. However, it is unclear if these were warnings like territorial displays of aggression or outright attacks. More unexplained Bigfoot behaviour includes the construction of stick structures where broken and twisted foliage is placed in specific areas. In some instances, small trees have been observed bent, uprooted, or stacked in patterns such as weaved and crisscrossed, leading some to believe that they are potential territorial markings. One such example possessed several stick structures that were 30 yards apart and ended up as a tiny pond, almost serving as a roadmap to a hidden water source. On other occasions, entire deer skeletons have been suspended high up in trees. Despite this, theorists are led to believe that Bigfoot are unlikely to climb trees due to their significant weight, however are said to be adept swimmers.
Communication and vocalizations.
A variety of vocalizations, such as howls, whoops, moans, snorts, grunts, whistles, teeth clacking, and even a supposed form of language have been reported. Most commonly, the creatures have been described as making deep guttural ape-like grunts that sound like a blend of heavy panting and demonic laughter. However, the primates-like whoops have been more common at dusk. Some of these sounds may be the Sasquatch successfully mimicking the sounds of other creatures and even humans. Examples of these alleged vocalizations have been recorded and analysed by field researchers. These include the Ohio Howl and the Sierra Sounds, which occurred in the mountains of California, which were later dubbed the Samurai Chatter. The sounds were reminiscent of a deep-voiced Japanese man speaking quickly, with some whistles and grunts mixed in. Ex-Navy cryptologic linguist R. Scott Nelson analysed the sounds, before concluding that it seemed to be some form of primitive language. A non-verbal form of communication available to Bigfoot is the tree-knocking sounds, where loud percussive knocking noises are heard from the forest. Some have argued that these creatures are knocking branches against trees or banging rocks together, whilst others have suggested that the creatures are clapping their own hands or slapping their chests.
Diet.
Like gorillas, Bigfoot may use its powerful jaws to chew on tough vegetation, however would require an omnivorous diet in the coniferous forests of the Pacific Northwest. Therefore, some experts have theorized that this creature would eat anything from wild berries, leaves, roots, nuts, grasses, mollusks, fish, insects, small animals, deer, elk, and even carrion. However, this diet may bring them into direct competition with bears and other large predators. Much like bears, these creatures would possibly hibernate during the frigid winters of these mountainous areas where food would become scarce during those months. However, others have hypothesized that Bigfoot would be a more opportunistic creature, stealing food from fishing nets or storage barrels.
Homes and shelter.
These creatures seem to construct their homes from branches, vines and leaves, interweaving them into impressive domed structures. The interiors of these structures are said to be made from tree bark and moss. In addition to this, these creatures can also find readily made shelter in the shape of caves. The mummified remains of the red-haired cannibalistic giants discovered at Lovelock Cave in 1911 have further fueled these theories.
Sightings and interactions with humans.
Alleged sightings and interactions predominantly occur in the northwestern region of Washington, Oregon, Northern California, and British Columbia. Other prominent areas of supposed sightings include the rural areas of the Great Lakes region and southeastern United States. The Patterson-Gimlin Bigfoot film. One of the most famous Bigfoot sightings was recorded in 1967 and is known as the Patterson-Gimlin Bigfoot film. The footage shows a crouched animal rising, then briskly walking away from Patterson and Gimlin, who were filming the creature whilst riding their horses, which were spooked by its presence. The recording has been at the centre of a lot of controversy, as many believe it to be the ultimate proof that the creature exists, whilst others see it as an elaborate hoax. The Baumann Affair. One such incident of a vengeful Bigfoot was chronicled by President Theodore Roosevelt in his 1892 memoir, The Wilderness Hunter. It was within these pages that Roosevelt recounted a time when he met an elderly mountain man named Baumann who had been tracking beavers with his colleague near Idaho's Wise River. During this time, the two men began to sense a monstrous animal lurking around their camp. Sometime after, the men returned to their camp to find it vandalized and noticed large bipedal tracks. Later that night, the men were awakened to the horrific shadow of a hulking monster in the doorway of their lean-to. Baumann shot at the figure, which ran away only to return the following day and kill Baumann's fellow trapper. Baumann would discover 4 puncture marks on the man's throat, as well as a broken neck. Based on this information, he gleaned that the creature bit and broke the trapper's neck. The Albert Ostman Abduction. The Swedish-born Canadian prospector Albert Ostman reported that he endured a 6-day ordeal when he was abducted by a Bigfoot and held captive with its family near Toba Inlet, British Columbia in 1924. Ostman was carried away by a Sasquatch while sleeping in his sleeping bag before being set down in a 10-acre valley surrounded by steep walls and a single narrow exit that was guarded by the group of creatures. These beasts included a gigantic 8-foot male, its 7-foot mate, and their 2 smaller adolescents. Ostman only managed to escape by tricking the creature into eating an entire tin of snuff, which caused it to become ill. The Ape Canyon Incident. An incident in 1924, frequently referred to as the Battle of Ape Canyon, tells of miners who supposedly shot and killed a 7-foot hairy ape-like creature. Later that evening, as the prospectors slept, they were abruptly awoken by a loud noise to discover that their cabin was being attacked. The perpetrators were large hairy ape men that hurled rocks from a nearby cliff. The miners were under siege for the remainder of that harrowing night as rocks crashed through the roof and the creature slammed into the cabin walls, causing the entire structure to shake. The men would desperately fight back, firing their rifles through the ceilings and gaps in the walls. However, by the morning, the aggressors had thankfully gone. The Kenai Peninsula attacks. In another series of events during 1929, the local hunters in the fishing village of Portlock, Alaska would miraculously vanish before their pulverized corpses would appear floating downriver. These events coincided with the mysterious 18-inch man-like footprints that were discovered in the adjacent area. These killings proved so terrifying that the residents abandoned the town by 1949.
Powers and abilities.
Speed and stamina. It is said that Bigfoot can move as a fluid biped and quadruped, navigating through the forest at great speed, with strides measuring from 42 to 100 inches. This allows the creatures to run up to speeds of around 35 miles per hour. Impressive strength. Bigfoot are described as hulking creatures that can exhibit immense strength. One such report documented that a Sasquatch moved an oil drum weighing 450 pounds with ease. Defense mechanisms. Although not necessarily a power, the creatures are said to emit a pungent foul-smelling odour that is similar to rotten eggs or skunk. It is possible that this foul odour can be controlled by the creature, much like how a silverback gorilla can switch off their body odour by activating apocrine glands in their armpits. Others have explained that this smell is indeed a defense mechanism and can be activated by the creature's axillary gland when frightened. The emitted stench can make the intended victim violently ill. In addition to projecting strong odours, the Sasquatch is said to emit a low-frequency sound that is less than 20 Hz. The infrasound waves can have a disruptive effect on smaller animals, which may be why certain eyewitnesses were said to feel disorientated in the presence of the creature. Stealth and camouflage. Its avoidance behaviours have seen Sasquatch develop excellent camouflage capabilities, and they are said to blend seamlessly by hiding behind trees. This almost allows them to vanish then reappear by peeking out from behind their cover. Their ability to move around so quietly for such a large animal is also uncanny. Heightened senses. Bigfoot are said to have excellent visual, auditory, and olfactory systems which allow them to sense the presence of potential threats and even prey. It is theorized that they may possess other senses that we do not yet fully understand.
Bigfoot across cultures.
Many Native American cultures traditionally fear and respect these creatures. According to anthropologist David Daegling, legends of the creature existed long before the name Bigfoot was coined. These stories varied in details both regionally and between families in the same community. On the Tall River Indian Reservation in California, 500 to 1,000-year-old rock carvings were created by a group of Yokuts. This site is called Painted Rock and is supposed to portray a group of Bigfoots called the Family. The largest of the glyphs is referred to as the Hairy Man. Ecologist Robert Pyle suggests that most cultures have accounts of gigantic man-like creatures in their folklore, expressing a need for some larger-than-life creature. Although different cultures have their own names for these creatures, many can be translated as Wild Man or Hairy Man.
This file terminates here. End sequence.